We need to put some holdo maneuvers.
This is where the fun begins.
Oh,
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Holdo Maneuver podcast.
we were
with
just
me-
here.
I know. We've been a bad batch, but now we're the Acolyte. So with me, as per always and per usual, is Mr. Michael J. Soren somewhere on the screen. And then joining us this week are LuchaJohnny and Mr. Trent Vactor,
Oh yeah,
also somewhere on the screen.
Michael
We're gonna,
Jedi Sworn.
yeah, that's what
I
the
don't know
joke
about
stands
that.
for. But yeah, we're talking about the third episode of the Acolyte this week. That's called Destiny.
Density.
Ooh.
Yeah. People know what I'm yeah. But I think
Hey,
Johnny's got a question.
Yeah, I got a question before we get started. Why is it the Jedi Temple never receives memos?
Well, Johnny, of course, it's because attachments are forbidden.
It's like he could foresee the future.
Johnny read my mind.
Yeah. He must be Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to the Holdo Maneuver before, it's me and Mike were two hardworking guys trying to incorporate Star Wars into our very busy lives. So yes, this week, like I said, it's episode 3 of the Acolyte, and I guess since we're in a square this week, we can do a square sparrow, as Mike likes to call
Right.
it. Or
Not round robin.
that's right. That would only be if there's a circle.
And there's never a circle, so we always are a square sparrow.
It's true. It's true. Sometimes we're a let's not get into shape-based jokes because Mike's face doesn't look like it's in the mood for shape-based jokes.
I mean, a triangle turkey. There you go.
Yes.
That's the first bird I could think of with a T name. That's why my face went all
Yes.
crazy. I was like, what the hell's a bird with a T name?
The first one that came to my mind was Titmouse.
Yes, that is the
Weirdly, that's not the first time I've seen that today, but that was because I was looking at
What were you
Lower Decks?
watching?
the executive producer, supervising director of Star Trek Lower Decks is
Oh, yeah.
for Titmouse Animation. But this is not Star Trek, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
So first impressions for this episode, I'll go with, for me, who's underneath me on the screen. I'll go Vactor first, then Johnny, and then Mike, and then I'll round it out.
Oh yeah. This episode is exactly what I'm looking for in a Star Wars show. This is something that I have been I've been craving it. I've been wanting this for so long, and getting to talk week to week about Star Wars is so fun for me. I really love where the Acolyte is going, where it's taken us, or where it's going. This mystery is unraveling, and it's kind of giving us more backstory, more lore in the Star Wars universe. And that's what I crave. As much as I crave talking to LuchaJohnny, I crave Star Wars lore. That's what I love. I love it.
Speaking of,
Yep. How about you, Johnny?
I'm just here for the validation because Vactor always does a great job at making me feel appreciated.
There you go.
I like the episode. It's interesting. I've seen a couple of opinions on it, and it seems like everybody is higher on it than I am. I thought it was fine. I didn't dislike it. It was good. I enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, it was an episode that I liked.
it was
I
an
said before
episode.
we started, like, this is one of the downfalls to agreeing to something before you've seen it, because like I don't have a ton to say about it. I am interested that everybody else is like, this was amazing, and I'm like, it was good.
Well, Johnny, I wanted to ask you, just for context for the audience, what to you is 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 Star Wars? Like, what is your favorite Star Wars show?
Droids.
My favorite show.
Yes.
My favorite show is The Mandalorian. Like that first season of The Mandalorian
Wrong
was
answer.
one of my. You see, that's one of the one of my clearest
About the
memories
right
of The
answer,
Mandalorian
McFly.
is watching. I forget which episode it was. I think it might have been the third, where he lands on the village with Grogu, and the one side has a chicken walker, has an ATST.
Yes.
They
Oh,
made
yeah.
that thing. They made that thing seem like it was a weapon of mass destruction, which it never felt threatening in the movies.
Mhm.
In that episode of TV, it felt threatening. Like that first season of Mandalorian to me is what I probably the Star Wars thing that I have liked the most. Movies, I don't know. I want to say like I like all the movies, but the one that pops into my brain first is Rogue One. Oddly enough,
Nice.
Good answer. Better answer than TV show.
I'm 50-50 there, so I'm doing all right.
How about you, Mike?
This episode was interesting to say the least, because I did not expect this flashback to go into a world where all of a sudden the Force becomes. It's essentially you're looking at the Force as a god, and the Jedi have one version of their religion, then these witches have their other version. They all use this power. It's the same exact power. They just use it differently and treat it differently, and have different rituals. Like I wasn't expecting any of that, so that was kind of interesting. It's always hard for me with Star Wars and children because there's just a lot of badness around children in Star Wars. Nothing you can do about that. Like it gets awkward real fast. It was a good episode. I'm enjoying the show. It's different than what we've gotten so far. Yeah, this episode it was more interesting and intriguing, and I still don't know how I 100% feel about it. But it was definitely worth a watch, and it's very, very cool what they're doing with the lore, as Vactor said. It's
Yeah.
very lore heavy.
It was good for world building and lore and backstory, but it was
Mhm.
like nothing that knocked my socks off. It was just
Yeah.
intriguing throughout to learn the background.
How about you to round out the square?
Yeah.
Square circle.
So, yeah, for me, I enjoyed this one. I think I'm leaning more towards the side. It seems like how Vactor enjoyed it a little bit, where I don't know. I liked how this one did something a little bit differently. This also seems like I had also heard something about like the season having like it's gonna have like the different perspectives, like where you see events happen from different
Rashomon.
Rashomon, with the different
Yeah.
like viewpoints and different points of view as it were. So it seems like this is the first point of view that we're gonna be seeing these events.
Yes.
And then possibly. And then I know like how usually shows will do it, like so like next time we see it's going to be a little bit more tapered down, and then the next time you see it's a little bit even more tapered down for whoever's point of view that you're seeing at that point. But overall, I liked this episode quite a bit, and I'm intrigued to kind of see where some of this is going, and I have some theories just based off of after watching this episode too, just to,
Oh yeah.
at least as far as it goes with May and Osha, or
Yeah.
maybe this should be called Moesha, because if you put their names together, it'd be Moesha. I don't know, but that's a different TV show.
I was
Wow.
gonna say, wasn't there a Moesha TV show?
Yeah, there was. But so I think the next thing that we should do from here then, now that we've kind of given our initial thoughts in here, is what I can do from here. I'm just gonna read off like an episode summary, and then we can kind of break it down by like the scenes at that point. So the episode summary as a whole: 16 years ago on the planet Brendok, I already was saying Brendoxon. I was like young twins for Osha. So Osha is apparently short or a nickname for Osha.
Oh,
And Mayho,
you're-
May. Yeah.
So you
Yes.
just cut out, but you're good.
And Asaya are part of a mystical female coven led by their mother. Their story kicks off with Osha meditating under a Bunta tree, not to be confused with the Bunta Eve classic, which her sister May warns is dangerous, despite the twins share a deep bond. So the coven believes in the thread, which is like you were saying, like the Jedi call it the Force, or at least as far as we've seen in Star Wars, for basically everyone that we've met so far in Star Wars, as so much has called it the Force, but this coven calls it the Thread, but it's the same thing. It's a unifying force similar to the Jedi's Force, like I said. During the Ascension ceremony, where the twins are to embrace their powers, Jedi arrive concerned about the coven training children, which that's kind of a weird thing for Jedi to be concerned about. Osha, curious about the Jedi. Yeah. Osha, curious about the Jedi, steps forward, and despite the tension, a standoff ensues with the Coven fearing Jedi interference, and Asaya reluctantly agrees to let the twins be tested for Jedi training at a secret meeting. Coven members debate their next move, weighing violence against strategy to keep the twins in the Coven. So, like, with all that the first episode, or not first episode, the first scene we kind of get is that opening contextualization scene, like set 16 years in the past for the flashback, where we have Osha meditating there, and May comes in, and like now, and there's like these like butterfly like insects. What did you guys think about that whole scene? Because I felt a little bit like it like leaned really hard and be like, May's evil. See how she's evil? See how she's effing with animals? That's how you know someone's evil, because they're effing with animals.
It's kind of what I felt like. I was like, wow, they went fast to that let's make her psychotic stage.
Well, the funny thing about that was Osha did it first. She was kind of playing with the butterfly. Oh, it's almost like the magnifying glass and on an ant, and you're trying to burn it. So Osha is not 100%, like, she has some dark side tendencies to her, which I like. It's not all okay. May is evil and Osha's good. Like, that's just the way it is. I think there's a lot of layers and a lot of clues in the background that we might get some. I mean, there's definitely some twist coming. It's not, I don't think, just here it is, May is bad, Osha's good, and then that's the end of the story. I think we're going to get something in these next couple episodes, and especially like Mark was saying, with this Rashomon style point of view, where we're going to get May's point of view, and I think we're going to get the Jedi's point of view, because in this episode, there's way too many holes in the story of what happened. So we have to get those filled in, because it doesn't make any sense unless you're seeing other perspectives of this.
Right.
And so when we get the May side of this, is she going to be coming up and Osha was torturing the butterfly? Like, I want to see that. I want to see what's going to happen. So that has me curious.
Yeah, I'm also leaning toward the ending and how that came about with the fire and whatnot. And then previous episode, I forget the guy's name who was in that meditation.
Torben.
Torben, yeah.
Why was he so eager to kill himself over this interaction?
That's exactly what I want to find out. Yes. Because if we just had this episode, it wouldn't make any sense why he killed himself. Jedi didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. And kind of cut to the end really quick. There, like, if people were paying attention, you could kind of see there in the background that he's got that cut over his eye that he's got the scar for, that we saw in the last episode.
Got his Harry Potter mark.
Yeah, he's well, closer to it is Anakin mark. But yeah, he's got that going on. So it's interesting to. I am gonna be curious to see like how they'll like intersperse the flashbacks, because I'm assuming not each episode after this is just gonna be like the same events throughout that entire episode, but I guess maybe we'll see like how that's all laid out.
Yeah, this might be an episode that your perception of changes as the season goes on, as you see the other sides of it, and because this was pretty much OSHA's point of view, with basically everything we already knew that we had learned in the last two episodes, we just saw. So maybe that's why it didn't land for me, is like, this is pretty much what they already told us happened. So I want to see the other points of view that aren't as known.
I guess I agree with that, because when the episode came out, like we were watching, I'm like, okay, did we really need this flashback? They literally could have they literally told us this instead of just showing us this flashback. So I guess I had that thought a couple times while I was watching it.
Well, as Charlie said in the Santa Claus, seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. Yeah, you gotta have your Disney Plus synergy there. Santa Claus now available on Disney Plus. But yeah, yep, that's right. But this kind of like goes like this scene too with them there at the beginning, that has this kind of like they kind of like chant that they do with one another. There at the beginning too, with the "You are with me, I am with you. Always one, but born as two. As above sits the stars, and below lies the sea. I give you you, and you give me me." Part of me wonders if there's like something on there where like May and Osha were meant to be like born as one being, and something happened with like the immaculate conception that their mothers did there with, and somehow like they literally kind of got separated into, but not maybe fully. There's still kind of a little bit like a mixed of like a little bit of gray in there, but like they got separated into like a light side and a dark side embodiment of like the same person in a way.
Yeah, instead of like a split down the middle, one light and one dark, we're like, OSHA's like 75% light side, 25% dark side. It's like the yin and the yang, right? Because in each side of the yin and yang, there's a little bit of the opposite. So there's a little bit of both in each of them, but one leans more towards the light and May leans more towards the dark.
And that's a good point. If you zoom in on Mother Anastaea's marking on her forehead, there's these two dots, and looks like a yin and a yang. You can't really see it from far away.
May's mark is the same but smaller on her forehead, and if you look close, you can see it has the two dots as well.
I want to see how that comes into play, but I love the duality theme that's been throughout all three episodes. But May and Osha, light and dark, Soul as the sun, like he's representing the light side, the Sith and the dark side. Now this coven of witches, and I'm curious to see where you all fall on this coven, because they, to me, don't seem as evil or as bad as maybe they're supposed to be, and maybe they're perceived by the rest of the galaxy. Mother Anastasia has that line where she says they view what we're doing as dark. You know, people may perceive this magic as dark. And we saw that with whatever she did to Torben, where she made his eyes go black. Obviously, from the outside looking, if you're seeing that, yeah, that looks kind of dark. But I think we may, by the end of the show, get a little bit of a different perspective, seeing the other side of the coin, and not just always seeing it from the Jedi's point of view, but seeing it from either the Sith perspective or this coven of witches. So that's another reason why I like this expansion of the lore. You're seeing more of the universe and more of the world, and it's not just the dogmatic view of the Jedi.
I think that might be another thing that I come around on as time goes on. I think another reason was with this is part of it was, more witches, and is a little burned out on them after Ahsoka and Morgan Elspeth and all the Night Sister stuff there. Like, we've got witches again. Okay. So like that didn't land with me quite as well. But again, it's something that I might come around on as time goes by and end up appreciating this episode more in the future.
Yeah, I kind of felt, oh boy, more witches. And I haven't seen Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff to know more about the witches that have already existed. And I haven't read any of the books or anything. So I was just like, okay, is this like their creation of those? Like they're going to steal these kids and make these women go crazy or something? Turned out they're just going to murder them all. But
Or
Maybe.
at least that's what I mean. Maybe because we
Someone
just came
killed
into
them.
a room and everybody was dead. We're like, Richard,
unless
what'd
they're
you
the
do?
Hellbop Comet people that drank the Kool-Aid under the blankets. Like someone killed them.
It's true.
But you can also see May's point of view, why she would be out for revenge, because it feels like the Jedi came in, did something, and then her whole life is flipped upside down. Like everybody's dead. There's what's her point, of being in the galaxy anymore? And is she the last witch now? Because Osha never even finished the ascension or that
She never is. She never said
that
I
ritual.
do or
So
whatever.
is May the last one now of this coven, of this sect that kind of went off? So you could see why she would want revenge. And also in that first episode, when we saw May spare the life of that child, the bartender's child in the noodle bar, you could see again, it's not all dark side. It's not all evil. She's got some compassion. She's got some remorse.
That's
So
the dot within the evil.
there's so many things that it could be in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, what Mark said about could it be in the womb, Mother Anastasia split them apart, and that's how when she's talking about creating life. Is it something with cloning and they made the bodies, and Mother Anastasia was trying to put her essence into the next generation? That's how this coven survives, because obviously we saw there's no men here, and how are they reproducing? How are they getting more of these witches and more of these women? So that's all stuff that I'm excited about. I want to know more. I want more lore. More lore.
Yeah, like the whole
No,
thing there
it's-
too with
go
like
ahead.
Anastasia emphasizing like that the thread binds them to like their destiny or two. I think that's going to be like part of that whole thing too, and will really play into how we're seeing each of these, like maybe like each of these flashbacks from like a different perspective and whatnot, like showing how that thread is connected for all these different characters and how exactly like this person's actions are affecting what happened with this person over here, and maybe how that correlation for how one person perceives something. And it's almost just going to be like a whole kind of almost like a thought process, or I don't know, like something that's like a whole kind of thing where you're playing off of like the certain point of view type thing and like putting it into action for like how the show's being presented to you, and how what you see or like even what Qui-Gon said, your perception determines your reality. So that's exactly what's going to be happening through these episodes. It's like your perception of what you think right now is, you're like, oh, that person is not good. But then maybe 2 episodes from now, we're like, oh, wait, actually that person was doing this because A plus B plus C. And then by the end, we might be like, May was the hero of this story the entire time, but we were just seeing it from the wrong angle this entire time.
I was thinking of that is very possible, because Leslie Headland in interviews, she said that this show is not what you think it is. Whatever path that you think is going down, she said it's going to go in a different direction. So that got me thinking, yeah, what could it possibly be? Is it May that was the hero of this story, or she was justified? The only thing with that theory is, hey, she killed some people. So that made me think, well, maybe she's not the hero.
Yeah.
But what did the
Star
Jedi
Wars
do?
killing people are just like, they go hand in hand. Everyone in
What-
Star Wars has killed somebody.
What did they do to deserve Torben killing himself, to deserve him doing basically like the Japanese ritual seppuku?
Yeah.
And it's like, what? That's got my mind spinning. Like, what did they do that was so bad? And the first thing he says first of all, he comes out of the Bearish Vow after 10 years and says, I've been
Readily
waiting
to
for you.
just
And he's about to, I'm ready to kill myself. And also he apologized to her. He's like, I'm sorry. We did that. All right. I'm dead. So what exactly did they do? Also, I like how the poison was from that tree that we saw at the very beginning of this episode, that bunta. That I like that synergy, mixing all those things together.
The Bunta
I feel like
tree.
Bunta-
And what does it have to do with Bunta Eve?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a
Are
lot
they
of
the
Bunta
same
references coming about.
Yes. Yes.
Do they have Bunt cake on Bunta Eve?
Ooh. Now, that's a
Nothing
good question.
Cake. Maybe that's gonna
Yeah,
be the next thing that they're gonna sell at Galaxy's Edge, so you can drink and or eat.
Oh man.
Just make sure it's the
Get a vial of green
variety.
stuff, and you're like, do I really drink this for
Yeah.
$99.95?
Shut up
called
and take my money.
It's just called
No,
Absolution.
it'll be the spice creams.
But yeah,
Ooh.
There you go.
who else
That
thought
too.
that was kind of
Spice cream.
cheesy? Yeah. It
Well,
was like
that's that's just strange because spice is a drug. So why are
Right,
they
that's
having
what I was
drug
saying.
ice cream?
Drug cream.
That was a little
mean-
weird. I didn't know what they meant by that.
I mean, there's brownies that have drugs in them. So I mean,
yeah, but you're not giving them to kids.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, this
not
club is.
intentional.
It's like
Maybe-
Europe where you can have wine when you're like 3 years old. You know.
Maybe
You do
it's
what-
like
you should do what you
spice.
do.
Because have we seen anybody actually use the spice drug in Star Wars? Maybe something where like if you sprinkle it over something and eat it, it's just sugar. But if you liquefy it and shoot it in your vein, it's something else. Or if you inhale it or snort it, it's something
I
different.
was gonna say in the Obi-Wan series, didn't he like smash someone in the face with a vial of it, and like they all inhale the dust, and that's how he gets away?
Yeah, maybe.
I can't
Maybe-
remember. I thought
maybe
that
different-
somewhere.
Different forms of how it enters your system have different effects.
That's true.
We need more.
Lots
We
of
need.
spices
We
out
need this. That's the next show we need from Disney Plus. What is it? Skeleton Crew. Let's get the spice flowing. Let's get some spice cakes, some spice cream. Let's get it all.
What, like like Star Wars Narcos or something?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you got
This thing
Pedro
writes
already.
itself.
Stick your
No.
skull in that too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if he hadn't already shown his face, or I guess, I mean, you just clone Din Djarin, I guess, and then he's the one doing it.
It could be
There you go.
before
So-
he's Din Djarin.
Shiny
Just a
has a
little
good
kid.
comment. You bake out the spice like you bake out the alcohol in cooking.
There you go.
That's what it is.
But
Yeah,
but
that's
spice
the
cream
ticket.
sounds frozen. So
Yeah.
That's true.
Sure. So, it's the ascension ceremony. So that this, with that, it's like this whole rite of passage where the twins have to like embrace their powers and solidify their roles. And they cut in, and like Osha is like apprehensive about doing what May's like, yeah, come on, let me do it, come on. And then Mother explains that the ceremony involves like confronting fears and understanding the power of unity over individual strength. And then like that's when the Jedi like basically like jump in and like, hey, what's up? Can't do that.
those
That's-
kids
that's
are
our-
ours. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's our thing. We take kids and indoctrinate them into our religion. You can't do that. That's our whole MO.
Hide
But
your kids, hide your wife. There's a Jedi testing everybody up in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
now
Yeah, this
and
scene. Go
Go
ahead.
I was just gonna say we got Carrie Ann Moss again back from the dead because of flashbacks, and I noticed in here too. Indara's got one or two less. She had that tattoo like near her eye in the first episode. And there was like
Oh,
three.
yeah.
I believe there's like 3 triangles or so there.
Those
but
are teardrop tattoos.
Yeah. So she only has 1 right now. So I'm assuming maybe she adds at least 1, maybe 2 more because of whatever actually did happen here that night. So it should be interesting to see with this too, because I'm just kind of curious too, because we're like we said that we're seeing this from very specifically from Osha's point of view. That like if we see some of the stuff again, like say it's from like May's point of view, like the Jedi coming in like this, how differently that'll be played within like her recollection of it, or like we see Saul's point of view of them coming in there and like what his whole recollection is of it. it's like all just like shiny and chrome, like with them coming in there, they're like, yeah, we're the heroes and whatnot. But and then
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be interesting, just
Well,
how we see those.
can
different
dead people have
things.
flashbacks?
I mean,
Because you can't
Carrie
get.
Ann Moss.
That's not her flashback though.
Yeah, I mean, she's in the flashback.
She's in it, but that's not her point of view.
Well, we'd see Souls because he's still alive,
Right.
and he's the
Yeah.
main one of these four that we're following around with.
Yeah, we know
Um,
Kelnock is still alive because we saw him at the end of episode 2.
Is he bald
Yeah.
with just the top knot?
Yeah, it looked like it,
Or-
and it looked like there were
Yeah.
tattoos on his skull as
Yeah,
well.
I couldn't tell. Oh, that's a bold choice.
The best place to see it is when he's sitting working on the speeder, and OSHA walks up
Mhm.
behind him. And
That's
is like,
that's when I noticed
"Hi."
something was amiss.
Yeah, you can see it. Looks like it's shaved, and it looks like there's tattoos on his scalp.
Interesting. One thing with this ascension ceremony that what came to mind was they're talking about fear and how you walk through it and all that. And OSHA's so afraid. And what is Yoda's famous quote about fear and being a Jedi? So it's like, are they trying to tie that in? Is this like one of the rules why they're? And then they pick her to be the Padawan. It's like, okay, Anakin all over again.
It's true. Or maybe this is like a testing ground for
Mhm.
what will eventually be like how Anakin came to be. Like, I know that there was that one comic that came out that showed that kind of, was basically showing that Sidious was the one that immaculately conceived the Force, Anakin in Shmi. But I know that comic is also now no longer like canon to stuff.
Well, I guess
so-
Screen Crush did a video today and said there was apparently a line that was cut from one of the prequels that Sidious basically said that to Anakin, that he was responsible as well.
Yeah.
I'm your
I
dad.
wish they hadn't cut that. I wish they had kept that.
Or you'd be like, no, Anakin, I'm your father. Because it's
Yeah.
like,
Well, maybe that's how Palpatine learned the Force, is he found these witches and they
That
taught him
is-
how to make babies as well.
That is close to a theory that I saw. Not Palpatine, but Palpatine's master, Darth Plagueis. The witches kind of teach Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis teaches Palpatine, and then that leads all the way into somehow Palpatine return, like him trying to manipulate the Force, trying to create life, and then extend his life through cloned bodies. So maybe this show can make Rise of Skywalker make sense.
Not
Well, maybe
not the fun
Pelagius
way,
was trying
Kayla.
to show
No.
how to make the children, and Palpatine couldn't figure it the fuck out. So that's when he went, I'm going to clone people. Screw it.
I mean, that is how you make babies.
In a way.
From a
In a
certain
way.
point of view. Anyways, enough of Sheev.
You definitely don't make
Palpatine.
them in your ex-wife's basement. That's for
True.
sure.
That's true.
Wait, what?
Inside joke.
Sheev knows. Anyways, so a tense standoff ensues with the witches suspecting the Jedi of wanting to take the children. Anastasia reluctantly agrees to let the twins be tested for Jedi training, fearing for their safety but wanting to avoid conflict. In a private war council, Coven members debate their next move, with some advocating for violence against the Jedi and others suggesting a strategy to ensure the twins fail the Jedi test and remain in the Coven. So, I liked this whole thing too, between, like, especially with when OSHA's trying to do the test, and Saul's like, did someone tell you to give the wrong answers? It was like,
I
she
thought it
couldn't
was-
help she couldn't help herself to be like, no, that was
Yeah.
it was on the thing. Be like, oh wait, what?
It was just kind of funny to me. And like, I was like, wow, that is master manipulation right there. Just be like, yeah, you're right. Oh, you're right. And then she's like, no, I wasn't. Essentially.
Well, it reminded me of with Venkman with Ghostbusters a little bit, and or at
Yeah.
least it was Ghostbusters 2, with the cards where he's telling the female student that like she's getting all of these right, but they're all wrong. And then the male student is getting them all right, and he just shocks her each time. So it's like
That was the first Ghostbusters.
Okay, yeah. But I just thought that was kind of funny there.
So
you got a loft cat appearance too.
Yeah.
You know, I
little
thought
bit.
that was a loth cat. It's a Tuki cat. Tuk cat.
Okay, it looked very
Tanuki
similar
Soup
to a
Mario.
loft
What?
cat. There you go. What were you gonna say, John?
I was going to say a little bit before the test. So was it because they say first they're talking about like, we're going to test these kids. We're going to test them. And then they're like, with your permission, of course. And then she thinks about it for a second and says, okay, like, you don't want, was it implied that she didn't really have a choice? Like, is that what they're trying to imply with that scene? If with your permission, we'll take them and test them. But she didn't really need to give her permission. That was just a formality. They were testing them regardless.
Right.
I was trying to figure out if her thought at that point was, okay, they outnumber us. There's no way around this. So we're going to have to lose this battle in order to win the war. Or are they, again, not all evil, and the witches and the coven, they do want to give the children a choice. That is very interesting to me. I also heard another theory from a good friend of mine. So basically the two mothers in this, the head of the coven, the two mothers, one of them wanted Osha to make a choice and to, follow her heart. If she wants to be a Jedi, be a Jedi. The other mother, maybe this is where the theory comes in, was upset that I would say Anastasia, the mother that wanted her to leave was like, okay, if you're gonna let her do that, I'm gonna burn everything down. So it was the other mother that she tried to sabotage the Jedi. Maybe that explosion was her doing. That's what caused everything. So there is something. I think that is a viable route that could happen. Obviously, we don't know. We haven't seen the next episode yet, but very interesting to see what happens next.
I was thinking that particular mother was the one with the smiley face mask. Ooh. Now. Like she's the one who trained May and is going out for vengeance now. And sorry, Manny, it's not you.
That could be them throwing us off because they've referred to that person as he and the master. So it could be a female, and we were being lied to. It was an unreliable narrator, or they were just lying to throw us off. And yes, it could be the mother, or it could be someone else. But that also, again, I don't think we can rule out any of these theories. This is all on the chalkboard. This is all the theories. Everything makes sense.
He's like Charlie Day.
Yeah.
There you go.
Always Sunny. What I want to know is I want to see May's perspective of her conversation between the door with Osha, because that escalated quickly. That's like,
yeah,
Ron Burgundy,
fire.
Boy, I'll kill you. Like, I think that's what Osha heard, but I don't think that's what May said. I want to see what May actually said to her, because that seemed strangely out of character and abrupt at that point.
Right.
Yeah, if someone was going to post like one of those spoilers without context thing for this episode, it would just be that shot of Michael Scott where he's like, I'll kill you.
Do any of you know the image that was in the book she lit on fire?
I think it was the New Republic, or not the New Republic,
yeah.
The Old Republic logo, like the Phoenix with the saber in the middle.
That's what it looked like.
So
I just couldn't tell.
That's what it looked like. I feel like Osha's been having visions of the Jedi Order, whether she's just spontaneously getting them or somehow, the Jedi are beaming them into her head because she's not wearing her tinfoil hat. I don't know. And on that side, could something from the dark side be influencing May in the same manner?
Yeah. She was wearing that tinfoil hat on her shoulders. It was like part of her ceremonial dress.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be interesting to see. I'm really curious just like when we get these other missing pieces that like it definitely feels like that are missing, like, just that's usually what missing pieces are, is they're missing through this.
They're not found.
This, yeah, from this last little bit of the episode here, because that's where it like gets really choppy as far as from point A to point B to point whatever we see there at those points, and we're like just missing so many different things that are happening. So I'll be curious to see kind of how that lays out there. And so one of the things in here, like what the tensions and the decisions to, it's like, but that after like that standoff ensues, the witches suspecting the Jedi wanting to take the children. So like in that private war council, the Coven members debate. I already talked about this. Sorry, it's been a long day. Anyways, so like the key themes of this are like the sisterly bond, like the strong connection between Osha and May, like highlighting the themes of unity and loyalty within this episode.
What on that real quick? Is there a strong connection between them? Because they keep talking about it.
Yeah.
And they have this
It's
rhyme,
a twin thing.
but we haven't seen a strong connection. Like this whole episode, they seem to be at odds with each other. Like, are we just supposed to assume that they're close because they're twins and they've been raised their whole life? Or because I don't see any real evidence of the two of them being like having this sisterly bond. And if that's the case, it does beg the question, like, why didn't either of them sense that the other one was alive before episode 2? If they're so connected, and as other people are theorizing that they're a Force dyad, why did it take we don't know what happened to May after the fire. Like, obviously somebody grabbed her and has raised her. Maybe if that's the Sith, they were blocking her somehow from the Force, like shadowing her so no one could detect her.
Well, the thing that makes sense to me is if you follow the Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine says, "I'm the one who connected you. I'm the person who every time you guys did something, it was me, baby. I was there. Old Palpy was here, and he was the one who's connecting you." So this could like fall in line with that. Whoever this secret Sith is, the apprentice, or maybe someone else in the background, he connected the twins. He's the one who, like, whatever to start this plan, put it in motion. He's the one who connected that thread between the two. I think that is a possibility, but I think the connection between them is stuff that we haven't seen yet. It's off screen, because you're right, Johnny. In this episode specifically, it's all tension. It's because each one of them wants something different. And I think that's also supposed to be falling in line with that duality theme that we've seen so much, is like one falls on one side and the other falls on the other side. One wants to be a witch, one wants to be a Jedi. Also, why does she want to be a Jedi? I think we're seeing in this episode the Jedi are not the best role models to be. So
right.
I don't know.
They're exactly a lot.
why.
They're definitely painted as the antagonists in this episode. And like, how much does she even know of Jedi? Like, you would assume that the only thing she would know of Jedi is what Anastasia and the other mothers and witches have told her. So where did she get her information?
Right.
Unless she's just, feeling
or
like, sensing it. But
she
clearly,
doesn't want to be a
obviously,
witch, so she sees this avenue and it's like, well, they're not pressuring me to do something I don't want to do, so I want to be with them.
Yeah, but then clearly she didn't end up liking being with the Jedi too, because she eventually left that whole.
That was the foreshadowing with
freaking kids.
Also, Jedi Trinity is the one who went to the council. They said that there's a line in one of the first episodes, like, you're the reason why she got kicked out of the order. So what did she do after they wanted to take this child and train her. And then what happens 6 years later when she gets kicked out? What did she do then? That's another thing that I hope they don't just leave it ambiguous and we never find out. I want to know exactly what happened to get her kicked out of the school.
That's true. Yeah, and then like because The other thing that we have going on there with her is, well, at least with her and May, like they're around the same age, like that Anakin will end up being when he's brought to the council, and they say like, "Oh no, he's too old."
Yes.
Well, it's funny because I was waiting to.
Is
say
that why
this.
he was too old? Is because they're like,
Like-
"Oh, remember the last time we brought in a kid that was that old?"
What if the last episode of this series, Soul walks into a room and Yoda's just sitting there, like, "Okay, tell me what you did wrong," and he goes over all these training things, and Yoda's like, "Okay, these are the rules now." And he's scribbling them down, and throws them up on the wall. Like, this is what we won't do. We must
Right.
learn.
Yes, which the Jedi still didn't learn, as we saw in the prequels. They didn't know about the Sith being there. They didn't know about anything, and it was right in front of their faces. And Mace Windu even says, he's like, I don't think we can use the Force as good as we thought we could. We might have to meditate on this. So I think that's all interesting to me, of how did the Jedi go from the High Republic, when there were thousands all over spread out across the galaxy, to the prequels and the originals, where they just dwindled down to, obviously Order 66 cut most of them out. But what caused the Jedi to go from kind of, they could use their ability to use the Force was great, and then it became small? Like, what was the ego or the hubris there that caused that to happen?
Yoda, he was.
Only Yoda?
I'm
Which,
sure he,
by the way, I want to see Yoda just limping in the background with his cane, and he's just like, walking down the street. I don't need him to have a line. Just, if he's in the, hey, what's up, guys? And like he pops his head in one of the Jedi training rooms, and he's like, hey, and then you
him
never
and
see
Yaddle
him
just
again.
walking down the street holding hands
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
They're
that
like,
would be
maybe
great.
maybe someday we'll grow some goo, and we'll call him Grogu.
Yeah.
Hu
Pip
Yang
Wong,
should be
yeah.
around too, from what I
Yes,
understand. So let's see Hu
100%,
Yang
yes.
too.
I would love that. Get David Tennant to come in. I would love that.
I mean,
I think there's a lot of
he'd
hubris
be
that
around
gets
way before
exposed.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jedi, like, we're learning more. The more we have Star Wars content, the more everyone's like, the Jedi aren't that good. The
Yes.
Jedi aren't that good.
Which I think is a concept that a lot of people have a hard time with. A lot of these negative comments that I'm seeing across social media of people like, oh, this is not Star Wars, I think are those people that grew up like us. I think we all grew up in that time period of, oh man, wouldn't it be great to be a Jedi? We got a lightsaber, we're swinging it around. Those guys are great, right? And then now, when we're thinking about it from an adult lens, I think, man, these guys are taking babies. They're being gatekeepers with the Force. They don't want anybody to use it. Like in Dara Jedi Trinity, in that first episode, she immediately points out, May, I have an unidentified Force user, 10-4. Why is she reporting an unidentified Force user? Like, no one else can use the Force except for Jedis? That, to me, is like a red flag. And that's what I want to learn more about. Like, why are the Jedi so, they don't want to share the Force. They don't want anyone else to be able to wield this power.
Religion, man.
Sorry,
and
do
that's
you have
what
a
I
Force? Is your Force permit up to date? Let me see your credentials.
Yeah.
Did you,
It's like we want
did you
we
register
want
it?
the Jedi to be the Avengers, but it turns out they're Hydra.
100%. 100%. And I still love the Jedi. It's not like I'm like, this Jedi suck. But looking at a lot of the stuff that they do, I don't know if I agree with it as I did as a little kid. Although, as a kid, it's like we only had the original trilogy. This is even before the prequels. So the only Jedi we have are Obi-Wan, who dies in 30 minutes, Yoda, who's old and dies in 30 minutes, and then Luke, who's a half-trained Jedi. And then by the end of it, it's like, oh, okay, he helped turn his dad around and save the galaxy, and that's it. It's over. So what did we really learn about the Jedi? Not too much.
I mean, even when the prequels came out, I was like, I was enamored with the dual lightsaber. I remember that. But then when Yoda gets the fight scene, I was like, this is kind of dumb. I remember just not being impressed by all the flippy shit they had him doing. I'm just like, that's just, like, I just don't care. Like, do something else. You have all these other powers you can do. Like, why do you got to flip around the screen so much? And Dooku's 99 years old, spinning like a corkscrew, and then oh no, that was Palpatine. Either way, it's just like they had so much other stuff the Jedi could do.
They're Jedi luchadors.
Yeah, and
Ooh-wee.
it all
The
just
dark
became about
side,
lightsabers.
a pathway
and
to
stuff.
many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
I don't hate the
Uh,
fight scene. I just think, why can't we do something different?
Yes.
Like they have so many, like the speed walking you see once, like the mind tricks you see all the time. But like they could have done, like in this, you have the force fighting where, like that fight scene in the second episode with Soul and May, where he's just like standing there unamused, just like, yep, stop. Like that was more intriguing to me than some of the lightsaber battles we've gotten.
Yes. The martial arts that we've gotten so far in those first 2 episodes were the standout to me, and what made this show immediately like, oh, this is different. This is not like Ahsoka. Like the fight scenes in Ahsoka look terrible compared to this show. And I think like this is what Ahsoka should have been, if they had maybe the stunt team or the choreographers from Acolyte in Ahsoka, that would have greatly improved it. But I think this show is something different that we haven't seen in Star Wars before, specifically for the time period. This is the first live action High Republic we're seeing. For the martial arts, we've never seen that before. And then kind of like I said, the gatekeeping Jedi as space cops and the authority, like the authoritarianism, that is interesting to me. And those are all stuff that we haven't been really explored in Star Wars. So that's what I'm loving about this show is the overall like expanding it, making it bigger than just, all right, this whole entire series is about one family. It's only Skywalkers. If you're not a Skywalker, get out. We're not going to talk to you.
If you're not a Skywalker, you can just say you're one at the end of the
only Jedi, only Sith. That's it. Nothing else exists. Like that's what I liked about Last Jedi, where it was like, okay, anybody can use the Force. Hey, there's a kid with a broom. He can use the Force. He's pulling the broom over to him. That's an interesting concept, and that's what you have to do in order to expand it, like to keep it going. Like after George Lucas is gone, after the makers,
it's too narrow.
Yeah, it's like we need something to make this last for another 150 years, like to keep Star Wars going.
Right.
I think it needs to have something to give authors new creative avenues that they can go in.
Yeah, I personally think that getting away from the Lucas disciples there might be a better avenue than giving them more power. If you like this type of storytelling, because if you give the Lucas disciples, Filoni and all like his crew, it's kind of, you're going to get more, probably a lot of Clone Wars, but you're also going to get more Lucas methodology because he was his apprentice, quote unquote. So if you like this type of stuff, like, great, these offshoot shows are going to do it for you. But if you don't, these offshoot shows are going to suck to you because you can't get past the maker's true vision.
Yep.
One of the things that I'm enjoying a lot in here too are like how they're presenting it is the conflict of beliefs within here too, like the differing ideologies between this coven and then the Jedi, like reflecting like that like broader like theme of like tradition versus like change and stuff in there too. And just like how like within like real life or how it can be presented within Star Wars, like with like in that like differing like religious points of view, whereas like faith in and of itself is the good thing, but like the organized religions of like the Jedi, or like once something like becomes like too big, and this is probably why like that, you know, like Vactor's thing with like how the Jedi go from being like this mass, like the Roman Empire kind of thing. It's like this mass huge thing as all. It's not necessarily power, but they are peacekeepers right now. But it's going to be doomed to fail because once something gets so big, it's going to crumble from within because it's no longer basing itself merely off of like those core beliefs of what it started with. but then it becomes like more generalized of a thing where it's trying to placate to like these broader groups of people. And that I end up referencing this a lot, like I think either to Vactor or to you sometimes, Mike, was like with the line from Men in Black's like a person is smart, but people are dumb, panicky, and like in a group. So like with the Jedi as a collective are going to be like dumb about like how they're going about doing things, but like you see Saul over here or like Qui-Gon over here where they're being smart about like these things because they're looking at it from like a different point of view where they're seeing this different perspective outside of like the collective idea of like what a Jedi is supposed to do,
right?
How they're supposed to see things, and it's just like that they're kind of confronting and tackling that like within here too.
Yeah, what's the common thread between Saul and Qui-Gon seems to be a little bit of attachment, them caring about their Padawans. Qui-Gon wanted to train Anakin. He wanted like, this is the chosen one. I'm going to go against what the council's saying. Saul having that, that picture of his Padawan years after, there's something in that where every other Jedi that we've seen is like, no attachments. You can't like anybody. You can't love anybody. We even saw that a little bit with Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars, where he had that, I was ready to leave the order for you, for Satine. And so maybe that's where the Jedi went down, if they had opened it up a little and allowed for attachment, but they were so scared. That's where the fear came in. I think they were afraid to have attachments, and they're saying that leads to suffering. I was actually listening to a podcast, and one of the theories that they were saying on there was like, well, in life, suffering is inevitable. You can never not have suffering in your life. And so that the Jedi, that core principle or belief, don't have suffering, like don't have attachments, and you don't have suffering. That's kind of like a Buddhist mentality of suffering is inevitable. Everyone has to suffer, but to live, I think, is like to find survival in the meaning of suffering. So I wonder if they had changed that a little bit, maybe the Jedi would have been a little bit better off if they had let a little bit of attachment. Let's say not go overboard and the crazy girlfriend X memes, but let's have a little bit of attachment, and you can show like Saul. I think Saul is a perfect example of what a really good Jedi can be so far. What we've seen of him in 3 episodes.
You know what they need to do? They need to give up their attachment to non-attachment.
Oh, that they are their own downfall.
Yeah, like because they're so concerned about like bringing balance to the Force. Like if that's like partly what they could be doing if they brought balance to their mental health, basically. If they like allowed like a healthy amount of attachment and being well-rounded enough, like you were saying, to have disappointment, to have like let that stuff in, because you can't have good things without the bad things, and you can't appreciate the good things without also having the bad things, because otherwise it like syndrome, and that's when everyone's super, no one will be.
That's the yin and the yang. You can't have one without the other, and there is no like, you wouldn't know what is good if you didn't have bad. If you didn't know what bad was, everything is good. So that's I think the yin yang, and that Eastern philosophy is perfect and spot on. Johnny, were you asking about the fight scenes? The Ahsoka versus...
Yeah, I put it in the comments because it was kind of long and I didn't want to derail us again. But yeah, you were talking about the fight scenes and wanting to see that kind of commentary, that kind of choreography in Ahsoka. And I had the thought, Ezra's whole thing in there was force fighting without the lightsaber. So maybe they overcompensated by saving all the fancy stuff they thought of for his scene. Because his fight with him and Sabine against Shin and the rest of the... Yeah, that was really cool when he was like whipping stormtroopers into naughty houses.
Right, yes. That was great. I just wish they had doubled down on that fighting without a lightsaber, because by the end of Ahsoka, I don't know if we ever got the point of that. Why was he not wanting to use a lightsaber? Like,
he didn't have one with him, I thought he said at one point.
Well, he had brought it from the other dimension, and then he just didn't want to use it, and it was like,
no, Sabine had it. She brought it. She tried to give it back to
Yeah,
him,
so,
and he was
Sabine
like,
has his lightsaber.
that's right.
"No,
Yeah, he
I don't
didn't
need
have it for so long. So
Right.
Yeah.
So why didn't he want to use it when although he's not a fully trained Jedi, it wasn't like he went through the schooling or anything. But
He was like, "No, I'm good."
he's a
And then he
broken
picked up-
Jedi.
Then he
Yes.
picked up a blaster and started. So anyway, I started blasting.
Well, I mean, his first lightsaber was a blaster lightsaber. So I mean,
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think they could have done so much more in the Ahsoka fighting. Ahsoka versus that fart. That could have been a great fight. But it just turned out to be a fart fight. That it just could
Maybe.
have been better.
maybe the quote unquote stranger, as the subtitles refer to them as, maybe that's Marok. Maybe that Darth fart is that's where they came from. That's where they are. They're here right now.
The eternal fart.
Yeah, and they just didn't dissipate until years and years later. They were constipated within the Force. And speaking of that, they kind of like wrap it up.
Well, you're saying we're constipated and you're trying to get it out? Is that
Sure.
what you're trying to say?
Anyways. Yeah, so like we have like the coming of age kind of themes here and there too, like the Ascension ceremony, and then you have the tension and intrigue within us. Like, so as we kind of like wrap out, was there anything that we haven't touched on yet that anyone wanted to speak on, like Vactor or Johnny or Mike? Anything that we haven't touched on? It's on the tip of your tongue. You want to talk about it before we wrap up?
Well, actually, I wanted to ask Johnny, did you did you like seeing this other side of magic, the witches, this
Magic with a K.
dark side, maybe coven, or this like leaning towards the dark side? Like I said, people may see it as unnatural and dark side magic. Do you like seeing that, or do you like staying on the light side? Do you like staying with the Jedi?
I'm not opposed to it, but I don't think like it didn't. I wasn't like, oh wow, this is so cool, because it was in, like I said, we saw it with the Night Sisters in Ahsoka, and I also saw a bunch of it in Jedi Fallen Order, because I played through that.
Oh,
And
yes,
you
yes,
go to
yes.
Dathomir, and there's a lot of that, and Marin and things like that. So I've been exposed a lot to witches and dark force magic and Night Sister stuff lately. So to me, it was just part of it. Like I was like, oh, that tracks. And that was even something that was predicted and made sense, because in one of the previous episodes, someone says to Osha, "Your mothers," and people were like, what if they mean mothers like Night Sisters? And surprise, that's basically what it was. Although we don't know if these are, like, they're not necessarily Night Sisters or witches from Dathomir. They could be witches from somewhere else or whatnot. But the same concept. They're Force users who aren't Jedi but aren't Sith.
Right.
It's true.
And that is
Gray.
one interesting thing about this episode. There's only 3 dudes in the whole episode, and it's 3 of the Jedi.
Yes.
Everybody else in this episode is a woman, which is cool.
Yeah.
Every character is a woman except for those 3 male Jedi.
Do we know that Yelnaka's or Kelnaka?
Don't they?
Oh, no, maybe not. But they just say I don't think they ever use a pronoun, because when they talk about Kelnaka, they either say name or the apothecary guy said a Wookiee. Like,
Yeah.
so maybe it's only 2 dudes, Torben
The-
and Soul.
The official Star Wars data
3
bank
men and a
on their
baby.
website does use he. So this Kalnaka
Okay.
is a male male Wookiee.
There you go. Well, all right.
I'm
so
still
I think-
wondering when Kelnaka is going to do something interesting.
The next
Okay.
episode.
Yeah,
Because right now he's just like, I just leave me alone vibes. Like, I'm just kind of here to get a paycheck.
Yes.
that's what
He-
I wonder with with the theme of twins and everything in this, if it would have been interesting if they had released 2 episodes at a time every week, but then it'd be over in like
yeah.
Right.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks
Which-
instead of 7.
Speaking
But
of
it would
that,
have fit in with the theme.
Yeah, I guess as we're wrapping up, like speaking of that, with the episode title for this, how it was just Destiny, but then last week with the first and second episodes, you know, we got like the basically like the what was it? What was the first one? Remember the second one was Revenge Justice. I don't remember what the first one was.
Oh, it
But
was
just like it was-
yeah, dang. Now I'm blanking. Wasn't it Destiny? No, this was Destiny.
No, yeah, this Destiny / Child.
Hang on, I got it here.
Beyonce?
It is Lost
Yeah.
/ Found was episode
Yes.
1.
Yes.
Sorry.
Revenge / Justice was episode 2, and this was Destiny.
I'm waiting for the parody poster that says Density / Density, and it's just
Oh, I
George
get it.
McFly on it. Yeah. Yeah. See, there you go.
It's because in the first episode it's Lost for May and Found for OSHA, Revenge for May and Justice for OSHA, and this one's just Destiny because it applies to both of them.
Interesting. So
Light
I
bulb
guess
moment.
We'll see what the
guess-
next episode is.
yeah.
Uh,
guess we'll find
The
out.
next 4 are all, or next 5 are all TBA on Wikipedia. I don't know what TBA stands for. I'm kidding. I
To be
know,
announced.
it's To be announced.
You're talking about for the titles?
Yeah, it just says
Yeah.
TBA, so I know
Yeah.
they haven't released them yet.
Right. Because they hadn't done it for Destiny also until it came out. But you know, the 2 becoming 1, that goes into that nursery rhyme that they keep saying, you are with me, I am with you, always 1, but born as 2, as above sits the stars and below lies the sea. I give you you and you give me me. And
Yeah.
again, I'm thinking maybe there's something going on where they were the same person in the womb and they got split, or she is one person and the other one is another half of her personality that got split off, and she's doing a
Skewed
forced
off.
projection that she's not aware of. Like,
Yeah,
there's
'cause
all
we
these
had
different.
we had those force like they saw those images of one another in the
Like-
first episodes, but neither of them knew the other one was alive when they were
Right.
seeing that. So it wasn't
Mhm.
like the force Skype.
Right. And that plays into what Johnny said about how do they not know the other one. Although, I guess in the original trilogy, how did Darth Vader not know those were his children in the Force? Not,
Because
like,
George
I've always
Lucas hadn't
wondered
written that all out yet. That's why.
yes, that's true.
That is why. That's also why Leia and Luke
The
made
real
out
reason.
on Hoth. And that's why that. Yeah. After he gets out of the Bacta tank, after getting swiped in the face by the wall. Yeah, and that's why somehow I knew. Did you though? Did you?
Well, there's a cut
that-
scene from one of those where it's the incest is a little more heavily implied, I guess.
Well, by Game of Thrones rules. So speaking of Torben, that dude's gonna get typecast as trigger warning for possible for people. That might get typecast as being the character that commits suicide, as he did the same thing in Game of Thrones by jumping out of a window. Spoiler. Well, I guess I should have said spoiler before that. But anyways, yeah. But yeah. So I think that will. On that note, we're gonna jump out of a window ourselves, and we're gonna wrap out this
Right there.
episode. Yeah. So there's one behind me right here too. It's first floor, so I'm good. I'll be good. But Vactor, where can people find you online besides right here, or if they're watching on your channel already, they already know where to find you.
Yeah. I actually have 2 channels on YouTube. Trust in the Force is my Star Wars channel, and This Comic Cooks is my comic book channel. Across all of social media, I'm just Vactor Verse, which is my last name,
Your last name is Vactor Verse?
plus verse.
I was gonna say that's a cool last name. How about you, Johnny?
Geek the F Out on YouTube. That's it. That's where I am. I mean, I'm LuchaJohnny on Instagram as well, but I don't post much. I posted a moopsie because I got a moopsie.
Nice.
He's also at your local Taco Bell getting a Mexican
Yes.
pizza along with me.
Oh yeah.
We do Trek Retrek every Thursday, which is watching through. Tomorrow is episode 50 of Star Trek: The Original Series.
Oh wow.
Patterns of Force. My co-host, Kayla has never watched the original Star Trek before or anything but the Pine movies, and I've watched everything.
Pine
so we go
movies.
through with that, and then Friday we are covering this Friday the 14th, covering episodes 7 and 8 of Stranger Things season 3, and then we're going to start talking about Lost next Friday.
Man, Lost
Nice.
and Found.
But that is Geek the F Out on YouTube.
Very cool. Very, very cool indeed. And then, so for myself and Mike, you
I'm
can
here.
find, they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
We have 2 website addresses, one for people that can spell, one for people that can't spell. So we got HoldoPod.com, and we got HoldoManeuver.com. So whichever one you want to go to, it's going to bring you to the same place. And if you're already watching this, you've already gone to the right place. So you're good at that point. But
Dr. Heimlich, is it a maneuver? No, it's more of a gesture.
nice.
If you know Eddie Izzard, you got that.
But so that's going to do it for us. But as always, we are grateful to George Lucas for creating the Star Wars universe.
Oh dear, thank the maker.
Bye, everybody. Bye.